Hey everyone, welcome back to an AP Human video, and today we're going to start with Unit 4 for AP Human Geography, Introduction to Political Geography. So here we have a map, and this is just showing political geography, and I expect my phone to go off in like any second now. So you hear it, there it is. That is my phone going off because I'm getting a text from someone. Introduction, oh my gosh, stop sending me text. Introduction to Political Geography. So political geography is the geography of boundaries and political places, so countries, and all that occurs within those countries and between them. And Unit 4 for AP Human Geography, as of now, is related to political geography. And we got to get started with that by knowing different types of states or countries, and then nations, and then we're going to learn about processes, of course, that occur with them, like types of boundaries, devolution, the effects of centrifugal and centripetal forces, gerrymandering in the United States, and all of that. So what I actually want to do is we have a map here, and what is it of? Well, we see, Canada, we see Russia, we see Mongolia, we see Poland, I see Chad. What are all of these things that I just circled? They are countries, but in AP Human, they are known as states. Now, I don't want you to get this confused with the states in like the United States or Australia. Yes, those are states, except that is just the term giving to them because they have similar characteristics of what a state is as a country. And I'm going to actually show you those characteristics right now that all of these countries share. Now, as of today, there's 195 states. Now, you don't have to know every single state for AP Human, just so you know, because that's a lot of states. So here I have a state, Canada, very, very cool state. They have Quebec and maple syrup. So let's go into the 5 characteristics of a state that Canada has. Canada has defined borders. So the edges of Canada here are its borders. When you go through those lines or edges, you are in Canada. When you leave them, you are not in Canada. It has spatial extent. So it has space within those borders. So it's not just a line that you cross over, and that's its borders. Permanent population. So people live in Canada. It's not just one person moves from one place to another and then that place is abandoned for 100 years. No, there's always people living in Canada. Then there is sovereignty. So there is a government. That government has control over itself, and this government is free from external affairs or power. So it can choose what it wants to do. The United States cannot tell Canada how to govern their country. That is sovereignty. And then it has recognition as a state by other states. So the United States sees it as a country or as a state. Great. Now it's considered a state. Now it needs to primarily be recognized as a state by other states. If the United States was not seen as a country, it's not a state. So now we're going to get into various examples of political entities, which are basically just places with borders, spatial extent, and those two things. And yeah, we're going to see if they're a state or not. So let's start with Taiwan. This is Taiwan, by the way. So what we're going to do is what color should I use? I'll use blue. So we're just going to go through this and kind of make it like a checklist. Does it have all these characteristics? So does Taiwan have defined borders? Yes, it does. Does it have spatial extent? Yes, it does. Does it have permanent population? Yes, it does. Does it have sovereignty? Yes, it does, and no, it doesn't. So we're going to come back to this one. Recognition as a state by other states? No, it does not. So what does it mean by it somewhat has sovereignty? Well, it has some control over itself. It has a government, but it is not free from China's political power. So it's not really sovereign. And other states don't recognize it as a country or a state, so it can't be a state. So no, Taiwan is not a state. Now about Sri Lanka. Well, does it have defined borders? Yes, it does. Does it have spatial extent? Yes, it does. Does it have permanent population? Yes, it does. Does it have sovereignty over itself, free from external affairs? Yes, it does. And does it have recognition as a state by other states? The United Nations counts it as a country, so it is considered a state. So is Sri Lanka a state? All 5 of these are checked, so Sri Lanka is a state. Now, what about Scotland? Does it have defined borders? Yes. Does it have spatial extent? Yes. Does it have a permanent population? Yes. Does it have sovereignty? Yes and no. It has a government. It has various political structures that is just for Scotland, but it does reign under the authority of the United Kingdom's government. So it does not have full sovereignty. And it isn't recognized as a state by other states? No, it does not. So is Scotland a state? No. Scotland is not a state. So if Scotland's not a state, what is it exactly? Well, Scotland is a autonomous region. What is an autonomous region, though? This is an APHUG concept, so you should know it. These are regions within a country that have a high degree of autonomy, which is just control over themselves. So they have basically some sovereignty. Now, Scotland is an autonomous region within what country? The United Kingdom, with certain autonomy over themselves, like their own education system. And I'm just going to write EDU system. So they have their own education system, so they have some things that are autonomous over their country, like education system. They have their own laws and courts, but it's not all following the United Kingdom. It's not all just within Scotland. They have to follow the same currency of the United Kingdom, which is the pound, and all of that. They have to agree with Brexit when that happened. So leaving the United Kingdom, leaving the European Union, they had to do that as well. They had pretty little say about that. So it is an autonomous region. So yeah. All right, here's another one. Iceland. Is Iceland a state? Does it have defined borders? Yes. Does it have spatial extent? Yes. Permanent population? Yes. Sovereignty? Yes. Recognition as a state by other states? Yes, it does. So is Iceland a state? Yes, it is. Now, what kind of state is Iceland? It is a nation state. And a nation state is just a state dominated by a nation. So a nation dominates the government. And a nation, and a human, is a group of people with common culture and history. This is a more social and political term than ethnicity and races. Ethnicity and race are more related to biology and grouping of people together. Nation is a more political and social term. So it's just a group of people with common culture and history. People in America are American. That is their nation. It's because they have common culture, American culture, and history. They are living in America. America has the same history. Now, the political goal for a nation is to have your own nation state. So having your own nation state is the goal, because then you have autonomy over yourself. And having that autonomy over yourself has law and government often coinciding with your beliefs and practices of that nation. I don't know why this didn't show up here. Could I do that? No? Okay, it's not going to show up. So, yeah, it is a nation state, though, just so you know. Iceland has the... What is the nation in Iceland? I actually don't know that. Like Icelandish, maybe? But, yeah, that is a nation. It is isolated by other countries. Iceland is an island, and the name itself, made by the Vikings, discouraged people from going there. It's pretty isolated. So, being isolated... actually helps to become a nation state. Japan is a nation state. It's pretty isolated as well. So it has less influence from other cultures that could dominate the state and make it a multinational state, which we'll learn about in just a few minutes. All right, Puerto Rico. Is Puerto Rico a state? Does that define borders? Yes. Spatial extent? Yes. Permanent population? Yes. Sovereignty? No. And recognition as a state by other states? No. So is Puerto Rico a state? No. Well, if it's not a state, what is it? Well, it's a region. What kind of region? It's a semi-autonomous region. So it's not fully autonomous as a region, but it is semi-autonomous. So it has some degree of autonomy over itself. So these are just regions within a country that have partial autonomy over themselves, and they're primarily governed over a larger body. So the United States basically tells Puerto Rico what to do most of the time. So it is semi-autonomous to the USA. They have to do what the United States tells them to do. Alright, what about the United Kingdom? Does it have defined borders? Yes. Spatial extent? Yes. Permanent population? Yes. Sovereignty? Yes. And recognition as a state by other states? Yes. The United Nations does count it as a state. So is the United Kingdom a state? Yes, the United Kingdom is a state. What kind of state is the United Kingdom? It is a multinational state. Multiple nations coexist within the state. So these are states that have multiple nations coexisting together, which can lead to competition for sovereignty or autonomy within that state, which we'll learn more about later in Unit 4. And the United Kingdom is multinational with 4 prominent nations: Irish, Welsh, English, and Scottish. And all 4 of those nations have their own regions. Some are autonomous, some are semi-autonomous. So another example of a multinational state is Canada and the United States. Now, let's look at Irish a little bit. We're going to learn about types of nations now. There's two that you need to know, and Irish is an example of one of them. So, Irish is a nationality, which is a nation, that is sovereign within two states, the United Kingdom and Ireland. It is sovereign within its region in the United Kingdom. And then it's sovereign with its own nation state, Ireland. And this makes Irish a multinational nation because it has sovereignty in multiple states. Two of them is multiple. So it is a multinational nation. Now, I want to really emphasize the sovereign thing right here because the next nation we're going to go over is coexisting in 4 different countries, but it has pretty much no sovereignty there. So it's not a multinational nation. Multi-state nation. Sorry, this is be multi-state nation. I made this really quickly, so yeah, it is a multi-state nation. That is the biggest correction right there that I probably have ever done. Alright, here we go. Kurdish is a nationality in the Middle East that stretches across 4 countries. This makes Kurdish a what? This makes it a stateless nation. I got that one right. This nation has an autonomous region, Kurdistan primarily, and Iraq. It does not have its own state. It does not have its own nation state. And has very little sovereignty. That makes it a stateless nation. So it's kind of stretching about. It kind of lives there. They want their nation state. They really do, but they're not getting it. They do have an autonomous region, but that's not good enough because then they're still kind of controlled by Iraq. And there's going to be really a lot of more info in my Unit 4 ethnic conflicts video, which I should have out the Friday of when this video comes out. This video comes out on Monday. The ethnic conflicts video should be out on a Friday. So yeah, and it's going to go over like 10 different ethnic conflicts that are really good to know for AP Human. And I really recommend checking it out. And yeah, that is the end of the video. So all we had to do was identify examples of these concepts and then basically say what they are. And here's an FRQ on the screen. Now, some of this you might not be able to do. Now, you should be kind of easy. It should be able to piece some things together. But if you're not, that's okay. As we get into Unit 4, you should be able to do this FRQ with ease. And you might be able to do it now. You can probably piece things together from what I said. But if not, that's okay. There's some video suggestions if you want to go watch those. Please like and subscribe. It's free. It really does help me out. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Adios.